According to urban legend, the official channel of the state of Indiana reported on an unusual case some time ago. It was about the Ronald the Clown belonging to one of the many McDonald's stores in Mexico. Apparently, during one night, two individuals were going to take a picture next to the clown doll that was on a bench as a decoration. One of the individuals sat down next to the clown with the purpose of having his friend take a picture of him next to the doll. Suddenly and out of nowhere, the subject to be photographed expressed, "I'm very tired," while finishing a yawn, when to the surprise of his companion and him, the clown spoke, "Me too," while lowering his leg and arm from the bench. The guy next to him suffered an instant heart attack, possibly from shock, while his companion ran to desperately recount the event to those in his path before slipping into a coma. The Mexican authorities decided to investigate the case by reviewing the security camera of the aforementioned McDonald's, confirming the movements of the clown and the veracity of the event. Even to add to the general surprise, more details were found. When reviewing the recordings from previous nights, they were able to observe the clown getting up completely from the bench. After this strange and inexplicable incident, it is said that the director of the McDonald's chain gave the order to remove all Ronald McDonald's clowns in the country, sending them to incinerate, which is why there are currently no dolls placed on the bench. The whereabouts and current status of the individuals involved are unknown since then. I just threw up 10 minutes ago, and not only that, but one day ago I did it too. In fact, every day I throw up remembering that terrifying scene I saw in a McDonald's place that traumatized me for life. Since that day, I don't go out to the street anymore, and if I go out, I cover my face. I'm not that social in person. In fact, everything is in PC. I talk to my friends, and most obviously I don't eat in McDonald's restaurants. Sometimes I eat in Burger King's or KFC, but not common for the simple reason that I'm going to tell you about it right now. My friends invited me to go out at night. We arranged to meet at 7:30 p.m. It was 7:20, and I had to leave because I like to be early. We were going to go to a McDonald's at that time. They came, and we greeted each other. We ordered an order, which was fries, hamburger, and a Happy Meal. The vendor wrote it down and left. For my part, I went to the bathroom as I wanted to PXD. But not only that, a guy was also coming in until you hear the voice of the vendor saying, "We ran out of ingredients." A voice was heard saying, "No problem," and well, I was in the bathroom. The guy who was with me was checking his cell phone, and I saw that someone had hit him and was dragging him to a mysterious place. Curiosity took away my urge to pee, and I went to see what was going on in that place, and I saw the most disturbing and traumatizing thing in my short life. The guy was a clown who had his hair all messed up, his eyes worn out, a huge mouth and arms stained with blood like the whole place. Then he takes out a machete and sticks it in the stomach of that poor man. He opens it and takes out his lungs, his heart, and after that he sends him to a machine to crush him. It was disgusting. I heard how his bones broke. I saw how the place was stained with blood. I went to the back and I started to vomit. Then one of the vendors comes and says, "What the fuck is going on here?" I was hiding so he did not see me. The guy left and then I started to continue watching, but I fucking sneezed. Then the clown realized and saw me with those eyes all red, and I got scared and ran out of that place. My friends asked me what happened, but I did not pay attention because it was my life that was in danger. I got home. I opened the door and closed it. Since that day, I don't go to McDonald's or go out so often. One day at dawn, I saw that clown son of a bitch in the park where I lived. I shit myself with fear and quickly closed the curtains and turned off the TV and lights. Thank God he didn't see my house, or it would have been much worse. I know he's looking for me and wants to turn me into his hamburger or a happy box. I know that one day he will catch me and kill me. I never liked working the night shift at McDonald's, but it was the only schedule I could fit in with my classes. At those hours, customers were scarce and time seemed to drag. However, for a few weeks now, there had been a customer coming in every night, and his presence was starting to make me uneasy. At first, he was just a normal man, perhaps a little quieter than the others. He always ordered the same thing, a double cheeseburger, large fries, and a Coke. He paid cash and sat at the same table in the far corner, where the light barely reached. But then the notes started. The first time I found one, it was folded neatly next to the receipt on the tray he returned. "I love your smile," it said. It struck me as odd, but not alarming. I thought maybe it was someone shy, trying to be nice. However, the notes became more personal and disturbing each night. "I saw you out last night. You look beautiful even when you're tired. You know, I get lonely. You're the highlight of my day. We should talk more. I know you're interested in me too." I tried not to pay attention to him, but every time he came in and looked at me with that cold smile, a shiver ran down my spine. I discussed the situation with my manager, but he said he couldn't do much unless the customer did something really inappropriate. One night I decided to confront him. When I delivered his order, I left the note on his tray and told him it wasn't right what he was doing. He looked at me nonchalantly and, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, replied, "I just want to be your friend." That night, as I finished my shift and left the restaurant, I had a strange feeling of being watched. I quickened my pace to my car, but saw no one. However, when I got home, I found a note taped to my door. "I was hurt that you turned me down." My heart pounded as I tried to figure out how he had gotten to my house. Had he followed me? The thought terrified me, but I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence. The next few nights, however, the notes grew darker and more threatening. "You should be nicer. You wouldn't want to make me angry. Have you noticed how easy it is to follow you?" Fear turned to panic when I found a picture of me taken from outside while I was sleeping. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the police, but they said that without a direct threat, they couldn't do much. They started patrolling the area more often, but that didn't reassure me. Finally, one night he didn't show up. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that maybe he had found somewhere else to go. However, as I left work, I felt a presence behind me. Before I could react, a hand closed over my arm and a familiar voice whispered in my ear, "I told you you shouldn't have turned me down." The night shift at McDonald's always had a quiet, routine feel to it. Regular customers came and went, and time seemed to move slowly forward. One night, however, something disturbing happened. I was working at the drive-through window when I received an order. The voice on the intercom was strangely monotone, almost robotic. He didn't mention his name, just placed the order for a cheeseburger, large fries, and a Coke. So far, everything seemed normal. When I got to the window with the tray, I noticed that no one was in the car. The engine was running, but there was no driver. I thought maybe the person had gone out for some reason, so I waited for a moment. However, no one showed up. I left the order in the window and drove away, feeling a strange shiver run down my back. The next night, the same thing happened. Same voice, same order, and again, an empty car. This time, as I approached the window, I noticed something strange. The driver's seat was covered with a black jacket, as if someone had been there moments before. But just like the night before, no one was there, no one. By the third night, unease had turned to fear. My companions began to notice my nervousness and asked me what was going on. I told them about the empty car and the voice on the intercom. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke, but others looked at me with concern. That night, when I received the same request for the third time, my heart started pounding. This time I decided to investigate further. When the car pulled up to the window and I saw that it was empty, I grabbed a flashlight and went out the back door to take a closer look. When I got to the car, I noticed that there was a note on the passenger seat. "Do you like to play hide and seek? I always win." Fear paralyzed me for a moment. I went back to the restaurant, trembling, and called the police. I told them what had been happening, but when they arrived and checked the car, they found nothing out of the ordinary. However, they promised to patrol the area more often. The next few nights passed without incident, and I began to relax, thinking it was all over. However, a week later, the unnamed request returned. This time, as I approached the window, the car was even closer to the parking lot exit, as if it was waiting for me to follow. I decided not to go out that night, but fear and curiosity consumed me. I knew I had to find out who was behind it. At the end of my shift, I took my car and cautiously followed the trail of the mystery car. I drove through dark, deserted streets, following the car's taillights, until we came to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. My heart was pounding as the car stopped. The lights went out and I realized I had walked into a trap. Before I could react, a hand closed over my arm and a familiar voice whispered in my ear, "I told you I always win." Day 1. It was a rainy night, the kind of night where the sound of water hitting the windows and roof of McDonald's seemed like a constant drumming, creating a gloomy atmosphere. I was working the night shift, hoping the rain would chase away the customers and allow me to have a quiet night. But then the door slowly opened and a man walked in, soaked from head to toe. His figure was tall and thin, dressed in a black trench coat that was dripping with water. The hood covered his face, and I caught only a glimpse of his eyes as he turned to me. She didn't say a word as she walked to a dark corner of the restaurant and sat down at a table, her hands resting on the table with long, slender fingers drumming lightly. I waited a few minutes, expecting him to approach the counter, but he did not. His presence made me uneasy. I decided to approach him, wearing my best professional smile. "Good evening, can I get you anything?" I asked, trying to sound friendly. He slowly raised his head, revealing a pale, cadaverous face with dark, sunken eyes. He stared at me before speaking in a soft, ethereal voice. "I don't need anything to eat," he said, his words echoing in my mind in a way that made me shudder. "I just came to wait." "Wait for what?" I asked, trying to remain calm. "You." My heart skipped a beat. I tried to laugh, thinking it was a bad joke, but the seriousness in his eyes shut me up. I walked back to the counter, feeling his eyes boring into my back. Day 2. The rain continued the next night, and to my horror the man returned. He sat at the same table in the same position. This time I didn't wait for him to speak. I approached again with a mixture of anger and fear. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice trembling slightly. He looked at me again, that same penetrating gaze. "I just want to talk," he said. "There are things you need to know." I felt a cold draft go through the restaurant, even though all the doors and windows were closed. I sat down across from him, more out of fear of the unknown than curiosity. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked. "Your future," he answered, "and your past." The conversation that followed was disturbing. The man knew things about me that no one else knew. Deep, dark secrets, events from my childhood that I had blocked out. His voice grew softer, almost hypnotic, as he revealed details that made my skin crawl. Day 3. By the third night, the rain had stopped, but my torment continued. The man returned, and this time his presence filled the place with an oppressive sense of evil. I decided to confront him once and for all. "Who are you really?" I asked him, my voice barely a whisper. He smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I am someone who has been waiting for a long time," he said. "And now that I have found you, our time together has just begun." Suddenly, the restaurant went dark. The lights flickered and a sense of panic engulfed me. When the lights came back on, he had disappeared. But on the table where I had been sitting, I found a small object, an antique pocket watch with the hands turning the wrong way. From that night on, I began to see its reflection on every shiny surface in the restaurant, always watching me, always waiting. And every night, the feeling of being watched grew stronger, to the point where I could hardly stand it. Finally, I realized the terrifying truth. He was not just a man. He was an entity, a dark presence that had fixed its attention on me. And now, I was trapped in his sinister game, doomed to repeat those nights forever, waiting at McDonald's in the rain, with the echo of his words echoing in my mind. "I just came to wait for you.